Hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome to the third different generations with Abuelo and the Nieto, and we did pretty well last week. We got a lot of more response to our podcast, so thank you everybody for joining with us. We are Roly Martin, the Abuelo, and Tyler Carmona, the Nieto, the grandkid. And we get into Miami sports. We talk about a little bit of national sports also, and anything having to do with sports that is of interest to you, but focusing on Miami sports. We get into a little bit of Hispanic culture and some phrases, some sayings that are interesting for you guys to get into and to learn. But let's get into details of what we have. This is the third show, but also it's important, Tyler, to let people know where they can reach us, where they can see us, and the different outlets that we're using at this time.
So we have a YouTube page and a Facebook page, so the videos will be posted directly to there, and also some short clips from the episode, so minute and a half clips based on the different topics that we discuss. Also, if you just want to listen through audio, you can go on Spotify and listen to the full podcast through there. And we'll also be making an Instagram page to keep posting those clips and Instagram reels and things like that, maybe some longer segments, but pretty much wherever you find your podcast will be available on there.
We give each episode a number. This is number three, and we use different athletes to give, to name the episode. And a number three in Miami, the number one guy, maybe the number one athlete in the history of South Florida, it has to be Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, the Hall of Famer, three titles with the Miami Heat. We're talking about one of the greatest athletes in South Florida history, definitely. And and still he's getting a statue. By the way, in the middle of October, he's getting a statue at Casillas Center, and definitely he deserves it. And that's one number three. But you have another one.
Yeah, so obviously you can't really compare to Dwayne Wade, but I'll do my best here. Florida Marlins World Series legend Edgar Renteria actually went on over a decade later to be another World Series legend for the Giants, won World Series MVP for them. Obviously, with the Marlins, got the winning hit. So definitely, he's no Dwayne Wade, but Edgar Renteria definitely helped his team get their first World Series, and will always be remembered down here for that, I think.
Yeah, Edgar, a very nice guy. We had this Copa Dorada Sports Awards called Copa Sports Awards that we did for Hispanic athletes for many years here in South Florida. And he was selected Athlete of the Year that particular year, when they won the World Series. And he was at the awards event. A great guy, Edgar Renteria. Another number three with the Hurricanes, Mr. Frank Gore, one of the greatest runners of UN history. They have had a lot of great runners, throughout their history. And Frank Gore was one of them. And then he was very successful at the NFL level, played with a different teams. He was with the 49ers, of course, Buffalo. He was also with the Dolphins. And he's one of the leading rushers in the history of the NFL. So Frank Gore, another number three. But the major story, Tyler, this week in South Florida, Tua's injury, a concussion. This is the third one already as a Dolphin, the fourth one in his career. It happened against Buffalo, the great rivalry between Miami and Buffalo. Miami gets defeated in that game, now 1-1. And now the situation, what happens with Tua? He's going to miss 4 games at least because he's in injury reserve right now. And then there will be, of course, a different quarterback coming up now against Seattle. So he's missing the Seattle game, also Tennessee, and also New England and Indianapolis. He could come back for Arizona, and that would be October 27th. So it's a difficult situation for the Dolphins. And of course, I think that the fact that he went forward instead of sliding made a big difference. This was basically what caused the injury. He had to be more careful, but things like that are going to happen. this is going to hurt the team, definitely. But a lot of people are like throwing in the towel, and there's no time to throw in the towel. This is a team that is 1-1. There's many things that are 1-1. There's teams that are 0-2, which were favorites to win the division and maybe be in the Super Bowl. We're talking San Francisco 1-1. We're talking Baltimore 0-2. We're talking Cincinnati 0-2. Green Bay 1-1. Philadelphia 1-1. So Miami is still in a very good situation, 1-1. They have 4 games coming up. If they play 500 ball, I think they're in good shape. It all depends how they perform. And the offense, what I'm worried the most right now is not so much Tua. I'm worried about the offense, the production. This is a team that was around 30 points, number 1 offense in the league last year. They're still the number 1 passing offense in the league after 2 games. But they have scored only 30 points. That's very low. We're talking 15 points per game, and that's number 27th in the league. We need to have more production out of this Miami offense. But Tyler, we also would like to talk about the situation with the quarterback in particular, and the quarterback that was signed this week. And you can talk to us about that. And also, very important, you have something, you spoke to a professional, to a doctor that gave you some insight into the injury.
Yeah, well, going back to what you said about Tua, I think the greater conversation or the biggest story about this on all these, national media outlets and platforms is, should he retire? Should he not retire? People I felt it was a little unnecessary when another team's head coach has insisted Tua retire. That was Antonio Pierce of the Raiders. And I think, unfortunately, with a game like football, I think if you look at the statistics, 40% of all high school players have CTE, at least with the brains that they've surveyed. When you go to the college level, it's 88%, and in the NFL, it's 92%. It's very rare that you find somebody that has a full NFL career without having had 4 career concussions. And that's just an unfortunate factor of the game that we watch and love every Sunday. So I think insisting on somebody retiring, I will say the way his concussions unfold seem to be a lot more graphic than other people. I'm seeing him, lock up and literally his arms lock out or his fingers lock out on TV. That's concerning to anybody that watches. And I do understand that, but I do urge anybody who's concerned to pay a little bit more attention to this game. And if you watch it enough, there's a lot of other people you should be worried about if that's the case. And, neither one of us are doctors. So in terms of speculation, I think that's unnecessary, one way or another. But I spoke to and interviewed a sports medicine specialist earlier in the day. Here's what they had to say.
But I don't think we have the question quite answered just yet as to how many are too many. Some of the things personally I look at whenever I'm talking to an athlete about concussion, if they've had, repeated concussions, is one, are they having more symptoms with less trauma? Are they having symptoms that are more severe with less trauma? Are they having symptoms that are taking longer to recover with less trauma in particular? Over each 24-hour period, the athlete will engage in more strenuous physical activity each day, getting back fully to their sport, full practice, full contact, and then being able to play in the game. That usually takes about a week to accomplish. And as long as they're able to get through each of those steps in the protocol without a recurrence of any of their symptoms, they can progress on and get back to full throttle with their sport.
And also moving on, talking about Tyler Huntley, who the Dolphins signed, former Ravens quarterback, former Pro Bowl quarterback, actually. A lot of people don't know that. There was some weird injuries that year. He ended up being voted in as an alternate. And I don't want to say he didn't miss a beat when he came in for Lamar Jackson, but the offense was still able to flow efficiently. Now, they have similar play styles, albeit Lamar Jackson's obviously might be the most talented player in the NFL, but Tyler Huntley was able to be plugged into that system and played well. The team seemed to respond well around him. Now, it's not even certain if he's going to end up being the Dolphins starting quarterback at any point. Right now, he's on the team. He does seem to be active, but I will say that's something to look out for. Also, a South Florida native, coming back home might feel a little bit more comfortable, and it's proven he can do it before. He's bounced around some teams since leaving the Ravens, but I would say that's just more based off their quarterback room necessity and openings and things like that. But definitely something to look out for. He may end up getting some playing time, based on how Skylar Thompson plays in these next few games.
Yeah, and you look at Huntley's percentage of passes that he completes. We're talking in Utah last year, he was completing 73% of his passes, and then at the professional level, he's been over 60 basically every year. So this is a guy that is similar to Tua in that part of the game, and then he's adds also, of course, the ability to run with the ball. He's pretty good running with the ball, so that's something that would help also Miami, and he's got the experience. But we got Skylar Thompson for Seattle coming up this Sunday. Skylar Thompson has been in this situation before, and he did a decent job. He did a pretty good job with Miami, and he played maybe his best game in the most important game, which was the playoff game versus Buffalo in 2022. He went on the road and he completed 18 of 45 passes for 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. And Miami lost by 3 points at that time with the injuries that they had. A guy with less experience, now he's got more experience under his belt. I think that he'll do well for Miami. Now, Miami has to change a little bit, maybe the plan of the game plan that McDaniel is going to play, maybe be a little more conservative. Maybe he doesn't have the same abilities or the same communication with the receivers that Tua has. This team has some problems against the run. This team from Seattle, they're allowing 142 yards per game. That's number 21 in the league. I think Miami can run the ball with some consistency against Seattle. And if their defense plays up to the level that they have played up to now, I think Miami's got a very good shot in this game. And being realistic with the situation, if you go 2-2 in the next 4 games, you play 500, you still be in good shape. The things that worry me a little bit is the situation with the offensive line, the injuries. Armstead been injured again, Robert Jones been injured again. So those are 2 guys that they might miss this Sunday. We don't know at this point. So those are key players that you wanna have. So you want to try to get healthy, get to a healthy, and play well while that happens.
And with Skylar Thompson also, I think a lot of fans remember that rookie Skylar Thompson who looked a little bit scared, a little confused back there. This is one of his first starts ever, and obviously his first playoff game. But like you just mentioned his stats, he didn't play that bad, especially for a rookie with very little experience. Now we're looking at a third-year player, very different, obviously, from a rookie who's just being thrown into, the most important game of his life, essentially. Now he's able to kind of ease into things, has 2 more years of experience under his belt. So we're probably looking at a completely different football player.
And you were gonna mention the wideouts in particular of Seattle. That's something Miami's got to worry about. Smith is doing a good job quarterbacking that team, and he's also has a high percentage of passes completed up to now. That's an offense that through the air definitely can cause some problems.
Yeah, you have DK Metcalf, that's obviously a Pro Bowl receiver, high draft pick. Tyler Lockett, veteran who's also a Pro Bowler, has put in, a lot of great years in this league. Obviously, probably one of the best slot receivers of all time at this point. That's not even a crazy thing to say. And obviously Jackson Smith-Njigba, the first round pick out of Ohio State, one of the best receivers in college football just, a little bit over a year ago. So those are 3 guys that could score on any play that, at least they're threatening the defense. And then you also look on the flip side, they also have a very strong defensive backfield. I mean, Tariq Woolen, you can make an argument for him being the best corner in the NFL. I would say Sauce Gardner, but it's definitely in the top 3, top 5. And, when you have a team that obviously is missing their quarterback and flows through their receivers, that's something to be concerned about a little bit, at least.
Okay, we're getting into now the Spanish saying, the Spanish phrase, the Spanish word of the day. This is something that we do in our show, in our episodes. And the phrase in this case is the saying of the day. It's a saying in Spanish. We're gonna do the translation. The saying is like this, goes like this: Más vale estar solo que mal acompañado. The translation would be, it's better to walk alone than in bad company. And that's something that we can use. We can learn a little bit from that one. Well, we have the Hurricanes coming up Saturday. Tyler playing South Florida in Tampa. They're going away. They're number 8 in the country right now. And this thing is playing very well. Offensively, defensively, one INT, over 10 touchdowns for Cam Ward. He was sensational again last game versus Ball State. And they started a little slowly, and then they got going offensively in particular. And they played a tremendous game. It's unbelievable the depth that they have on this team on almost every position. And something positive coming up versus South Florida is that they're having some of the guys back in the offensive line, like Rivers is coming back, probably Rodriguez will be back in the offensive line. So that's something that is going to help them, even though they were very successful the last couple of weeks without having those two guys. South Florida played pretty tough against Alabama. They were in the game in the middle of the third quarter, so you have to be ready for them. They have a pretty good defensive line, a pretty good quarterback, a guy that can throw and can run it. So they have to be ready, and it's a game that they should be able to handle. But Tyler, it could be, a tough game if you're not mentally, into it like you should be.
I agree. I think, especially in the beginning, I wouldn't be surprised by a slow start. You've played two opponents in the past 2 weeks that are obviously on a completely different playing field from you. And then, at this time of the year, you're going against the scout team in practice. So it's not like you're practicing against, at least most college football teams are not practicing their starters versus their defensive starters. So I think USF will be the first comparable talent that they've played, 3 weeks at this point. So it might be a, rocky adjustment period at first, but I don't think Miami should have trouble with them. Obviously, Bama kind of faced the same issue as we saw last week. It was 14-6 at halftime. It was, even closer before that. Bama scored right before the half, so they were really in it, winning at some point in the game. So I do think USF maybe gives some early problems, but should just be another W in Miami's schedule.
Fantasy football. That's your segment, Tyler, and I know that you're ready for it. You always bring us some good information. I liked it a lot, the first one that you did last week. So what do you have for us this week?
So this week, obviously, unfortunate news for a lot of fantasy football owners because most people drafted Christian McCaffrey first overall. Obviously, with the threat of being a runner and a receiver at the same time, he's a fantasy football owner's dream. But with the Achilles tendonitis, he's on IR. So the person I would start actually this week is Jordan Mason, his backup for the 49ers. And it's always, I would always be scared in the past to start a 49ers running back before McCaffrey got there because they would always keep such a steady rotation. But Mason had 100 yards last game, and he seems to be the guy that they're going to go with, at least consistently as their featured back until McCaffrey comes back. And then in terms of sitting, it would actually be Najee Harris of the Steelers, who maybe a couple years ago was one of the first picks in a lot of these fantasy drafts. But albeit he's very talented, you can't take that away from him. But there just seems to be some issue there, whether it's vision. But Mike Tomlin and his offense just aren't really relying on him as much as they have in the past. From a former first-round pick running back. They have Jalen Warren, who's been playing very well. He might be on our start list in a couple of weeks if he keeps playing like this because he seems to be kind of creeping into Harris's spot as their featured back.
I have something planned as far as the Heat is concerned. Talk a little bit about the Heat. They have, of course, October 1st training camp starting, but I would like to mention Inter Miami again. Inter Miami is doing very well. Lionel Messi came back, scored 2 goals, 1 assist versus Philadelphia. They got a couple of games this week. They're number 1 in the MLS right now. They may have the best record in the history, the most points in the history of the league. So, of course, what I said the first time that I spoke in these episodes about them, anything that is not a championship is going to be seems something negative coming from these things. So I'm expecting big things from Inter Miami this season. The Heat starting October 1st, Tyler, and they have kept basically the same team. Some of the other teams in the league, even in the Eastern Conference, have gotten on paper, they look stronger. Miami comes back with the same guys that were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, that they had a lot of injuries. Now there is a big question as far as the future of Jimmy Butler with this team. He's got 1 year of his contract and he's got a player auction. he would be making over $48 million, $48,798,000 this year. And next year, his player option over $52 million. But apparently he wants an extension. What do you do with a situation like that? It's difficult for anything when you get into a situation like that. A player that is 35 years old, that missed over 20 games last year, that was not there in the playoffs for you. So I think that the idea of the Heat here is let him play this season, and maybe before the season is over or by the end of the season, make a decision about his future with this team, depending on what he brings to the table, because it's a business. So if the player is going to be healthy, if the player is going to be there for you, are you being successful with him? Is the team doing a lot better than last year? Those are the things that are going to be taken into consideration. Is the team is going to be out in the first round again, or not even make the playoffs, or the team is going to go a long way? That is, then you put all that together, and then you make a decision as far as Butler is concerned. I believe there is interest out there. We're talking Golden State, and we're talking other teams that show interest in Butler. But if the situation with the injuries continue and the results are not there, I would not be in favor of giving Butler an extension. That would be my way of looking at it. I don't know if you have some comments before we say goodbye.
I mean, I will say the Heat are different from some organizations where they really do emphasize loyalty. I mean, there's a reason that they kept Udonis Haslem on for 20 years. Basically, from my childhood well into my adult life, that guy was on our team, and then being willing to bring Dwayne Wade back. So I do think that's something that Pat Riley particularly values a lot. And Butler was able to take this team out of a deep hole that they dug themselves into. Just a lot of bad draft picks, a lot of terrible free agency signings, and two final. Obviously, we didn't get the ring, but two finals appearances, conference finals appearances. So I do think it's a tricky situation because if he even performs at a similar level to how he has in the past, a lot of teams will want him, and him not being able to return to Miami may feel like a slap in the face to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if they extend him just based off his work in the past. And a lot of people do seem to want to play for him. Obviously, he's with him. I'll say, he's maybe a tough teammate, but he does bring the best out of a lot of people, and you don't hear a lot of people that have bad things to say about him. And it's hard to find leaders like that. There may be a few in the NBA, a handful of people that are respected as much as he is. I think that's something that's really important too. So I do agree with waiting to see how he plays this year. Obviously, you want to see that he maintain his shape in the off season and maybe progress even a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that extension. That the options besides him are also kind of limited when we look at it. So
I think that if that happens, those results are going to be there. They're going to expect results, better results, and then they'll react to it. But before we go, Tyler, your emails. People have any basically advice, comments regarding our episodes or show, different generations with Abuelo and the Nieto. What is the email?
email is tcarmona4@gmail.com. So my last name that you see down there, and then the letter T right in front. You can also just direct message our Facebook page or our YouTube page. Might even see that a little bit quicker than an email. They should be able to just message that publicly without a problem.
Well, thank you for being with us another week. We'll be back next week. So, goodbye. Hasta luego. Arrivederci.